Everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the nature of mutation, and in particular, talking about how this is going to be operating for us in a more individual sense and creating an overall sense of support around how we can begin to respond to new energy on the earth. How can we respond to the mutation in a way that is not only enabling it for you to be integrated within your own self, but also being able to just allow yourself to see how the mutation is actually working for you. All right. Now, before I jump into that piece of information, basically what I'm talking about here is the follow-up of a video that I had created called the collective mutation, and what I was sharing in terms of my perspective around what is happening for us on Earth at the moment, or at least in a more DNA bioform structure. All right. So that's what I'm really continuing with at this stage. And this video, like I said again, is to really amplify how this is now happening, how this is happening to us, and how we can actually see that process take place. All right. So that video is actually in the description as well as the comments below. If you're watching this video for the first time, I highly recommend watching that one as well, of course, so that there's a kind of frame of reference around what it is that I'm really going on about. And I also wanted to share that one of the reasons why I'm also sharing this video at this point in time is because I want to be able to reveal/share that astrology in itself, or at least the way that we interact with it, in some degree lacks this need for embodiment. Okay. And for me, so much of my experiment, so much of my journey here is about trying to not only reflect the embodiment, but also provide necessary presence and awareness around what the system is about and why would you want to be using it. All right. So that's an extra element to it. And we've just recently had the lunar eclipse, and we've also had the new moon take place in the Leo and Aquarius axis. Okay. So this is what's just recently happened for us, the full moon in Aquarius and the new moon that happened in Leo. Now, the sun's in Virgo at this stage. Okay. And obviously this video is time sensitive now because I'm talking about this, but you understand what I mean. If you've been following me. So the sun's there and the moon is roughly in Cancer at this point as I'm recording this, okay, on the 29th of August. So that's moving up into that balsamic phase relationship to the sun, right? It's got Leo to go and then it will complete its cycle. So the insights that I'm sharing right now are relative to what that full moon's about, are relative to what that new moon was about in this last lunar cycle that is taking place for us. All right. So I'm trying to embody the energy through this communication because I feel like this is what energy is available for us right now. I also feel that currently at the moment, and this is a big part of this message again today, is that not only does the collective mutation in itself, and this is why I said, please watch this video or the collective mutation video so that you know what I'm talking about and I don't have to kind of go back to the information. So this collective mutation is a very big deal in the sense that the way that we as human beings are going to relate to ourselves as we begin to go into the activation of the Pluto and Scorpio generation. Right now, you guys that are watching this video, that you're part of the Pluto and Scorpio generation, the gene that exists within you is that Uranus-Neptune conjunction. All right, that's in Capricorn, and some of you will have, you'll still have Uranus in Sag. Some of you will have Neptune in Cap, Uranus in Capricorn, and then some of you will have like the late degrees, the 29 degrees. You'll have the Uranus maybe touching in Aquarius. Now, that whole entire sort of generation has got that angle there. So in that process, when you guys begin to understand what is your mission on Earth, or at least, let me put it to you this way, not your mission, but what you have come to evolve within yourself that then obviously change that shows the mutation, is actually the whole entire mutation itself. Like you literally carry that fundamental energy pattern. because Scorpio is mutation, right? And then you've got the rest of the generations, like the Pluto in Sagittarius afterwards, and the Pluto in Capricorns, that will obviously then work off the back end of that mutation that is manifesting itself. Okay, now the Pluto Virgos, Pluto Libras, we've got our role to play at this point in time, and I'm working on, again, trying to consistently keep supporting each of your generation to understand what is the depth that is bringing you here and what is this process. I've got a little track for anybody that you're watching this video at this stage on every Wednesday in the middle of the month, okay, between, say, for instance, the 14th and the 18th of every single month on a Wednesday, I actually am on a radio show, okay, which is called Guiding Stars Astrology, who is hosted by a very good friend called Kristen Fontana. And she's also an evolutionary astrologer that actually studied with Jeffrey Wolf Green as well. And the next series that we're going to be talking about is on the nature of generations. And in particular, for me, what I want to be highlighting through that communication and that place is, what is it about your generation that really, really is enabling and providing the energy or life force in order to move the consciousness through this process, right? To watch how this process is mutating you, and of course, how you are watching the mutation itself through your life. So mark that down. On my Facebook page itself, there is every single Wednesday, I will put a link over there when that radio show is happening. So catch that, all right? If you want to know more about the generation thing, and I go into that specifically, but today's video, bringing it back to the center, bringing it back to the core, what I would like to talk about is emotional individuation, okay? And the relationship of how we can now begin to understand true Aquarius energy, emotional individuation that Aquarius is about, and breaking down the paradigms that we have evolved through in the past around how we are responding to the younger generation of children. And now that specifically is correlating to all the parents out there that have children that have got Pluto in Capricorn, for instance, that have got Pluto in Sagittarius, for instance. You're watching this video. Now, of course, Pluto in Virgos, Pluto in Libras, you guys are parents as well. But what I'm specifically talking about here in terms of the emotional individuation in this framework is the generations that have obviously got children that are, under 10 and 10. Right? Or let's say, for instance, maybe like 15, let's say 15. But I think by that time, there's already a beginning phase of socialization. But so between that category, so that's what I'm going to talk about as well. All right. And I know this is a long intro, guys, and I'm really sorry for that, but please bear with me. I need to really get this information out there in a way that really makes you understand what I'm talking about, because it's quite a big thing, and obviously calls frame of reference. Then for those that have got children, or children that have already maybe gone off to college, etc., Pluto and Virgos, and some of the Pluto and Libras that your kids are between the ages of 13 and 18, for instance, even a bit less. There is a specific. This video is also for you as well, right? But the context of where those energies are at, that's why I want to break it up like that, so that there's a very deep understanding. Okay, so where I want to begin is understanding the natural zodiac, and understanding that the natural zodiac is formed with the fixed energy. Okay, so fixed energy in the natural zodiac is Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius. Okay, so that's the fixed energy. Those are the 4 signs, and those 4 signs themselves are then making natural squares to each other. Okay, now in the archetype of Aquarius, what we have here is I am, the presence of I am, which is total individuatedness. Now, the process of Aquarius and the process of I am is one where each of us are so specifically tuned relative to the nature of the soul's programming that honoring that individuality means that our environment is always going to be in some way, shape, or form reflecting to us a sense of detachment and a sense of non-integration. Okay? And the reason why that's the case is because in order for us to awaken ourselves to the highest form of what we are, we need to go through our darkness. And our darkness is the unawareness of our individuality, okay? And we only get that stimulated and sort of in some way, shape, or form triggered. Let's use that word. What else can we say? Stimulated would be the best way. Like how does our environment stimulate us to become aware of the nature of our individuation and individuality, okay? If you've got a friend, for instance, or any person that you know that's got a strong Aquarius signature, like spend some time just really, really getting in touch with the emotional reality that is their soul, because they'll bring up a lot of feelings around like, you know, not being able to feel accepted or integrated into group dynamics because there's a sense of rejection around their own individuality. Because most of us, unfortunately, have been conditioned in our existence to not understand what individuality is, let alone emotional individuality, which is again what this video is about, right? And how the mutation is taking place for us. So the Aquarius archetype is that very, very specificness, right? So for me, for instance, when I was born, I flipped my nights and days over. So I slept during the day and was awake during the night. Now, in a consensus way of being, everybody sleeps during the night and you stay awake during the day, whereas it was the complete. So for me, it was like, this is how I am. Yet my parental structure probably was a little bit kind of confused about this process and also projected social conditioning on top of me around that not being okay. Now, I'm not saying that that was the absolute truth, but what I am saying is you can see how our individuation, and in particular our natural emotional individuality, cannot actually be fully expressed at such a young age. Okay, and I'll talk about that under the segment of Saturn and externalized authorities. Okay, this is a long video, by the way, guys, so please settle down, please get into a comfortable position over here, because there is a lot for me to share with you, and there's a lot of depth that I want to bring to the surface over here. Okay, so as an example, that's how it was for me. Right now, you can just imagine the types of social or the internalization or the rejection of what is natural for me, because the consensus way of thinking or the social programming around that idea is literally that we are not flexible enough within our lives, especially when I was born, you know, and even further with the Pluto and Virgo generations that have Uranus conjunct Pluto. I mean, you guys have got massive trauma relative to the individuality that has been suppressed, and yet simultaneously, I mean, you guys are the pure rebels, right? 'Cause, I mean, that's the point. You are here to initiate that collective shift through that like behavior of you know, literally just telling society to F off. So again, coming back to the individuation process, right? So we've got this natural emotional and suppression of individuality that is on us. Okay, that's Aquarius in that sense. Then you've got Taurus, okay? And Taurus in this natural fixed quadrant is the connection around how does our uniqueness reflect the inner needs based that is existing within us now. So every single one of us right now, at this point in time, has a very, very unique relationship to themselves that can truly only be understood once you actually do spend some time, you know, alone, really, and really getting in touch with your energetic frequency, getting in touch with what it is that, how do you respond? Now, the older you are, of course, I feel you've had more opportunities to respond to your patterns of and understand the emotional individuation process. But at the same token, there is also a deep inner sort of knowing of individuality that if you are in an environment where there's a slight sense of acceptance around individuality, you can find that out for yourself, right? Or you can get that. So the point is that Taurus connects to Aquarius and says, these are my individual needs. So for me, my individual needs for some random reason was to flip the day and nights over, because it was my individuation process. And those were the needs that my soul programmed within me to be able to have, okay? Then if we look at the natural square that takes place between Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo, and we integrate Leo into this process, well, now what we're dealing with is the element of self-validation, okay? Self-validation. Now, for every one of you that is watching this video right now, go to your astrology charts and look where Uranus is in your astrology chart, okay? Look where you've got planets in the second house or in Taurus. Look where you've got planets in the 11th house or in Aquarius. Look where you've got planets in the 5th house, okay? And from that process, just use your intuition. Don't try and overcomplicate the situation and get all muddled up about the process. Just go like, okay, so I have Mars as an example. Not me personally, I'm just using an example. Mars in the 5th house of the astrological chart, right? Know that that Mars energy is saying that there is a need to really, really push your self-validation. Okay, Mars is asking for that energy to be impulsive, and then it's in the 5th house. So it's like self-validation. This is how I am. Okay. Self-validation broken into smaller pieces and really clarified literally means saying, hey, I exist, and these are my needs, and this is what I like, and this is what I don't like, and this is where I go, and this is where I don't go. Okay? Validating that reality. And then that validation comes from the square to Taurus. It comes from Taurus, and it says my inner relationship to myself based on my inner sense of who I am. Okay, and you see how who I am comes into the process, the square to Aquarius. Aquarius, Leo, Taurus. Self-validation relative to my inner sense of who I am, and then Aquarius comes through their individuation process. Okay, now the Scorpio part of this process comes in, and what we have here is then the completion of this process. Now, there are many ways that this fixed quadrant manifests itself. But the context and the purpose of this conversation and how it's landing for us right now, we are learning to then merge / osmose with another person's flipped chart. So I have Taurus, I have Aquarius, and I have Leo. Okay, that's the bottom part, right? Now, when I meet somebody in Scorpio, I'm basically meeting somebody with their own Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo. Does that make sense? So when you engage the two together, what you're doing is you're merging individuation. You're merging individuality in with another person, and that becomes the relationship dynamic of self-validation, honoring individuation relative to other people's needs, shared for true power. Okay? So shared, Scorpio, true power, Scorpio, right? Because let's do this right now, okay? So here I am on YouTube sharing my material. The reason why I'm sharing this material is because on one deep level, I feel that this supports, okay? I'm reflecting my individuality and I'm validating what I love to do the most. And it's revealing to me my inner reality to everybody there. And I'm sharing it. But what comes back at me is like loads of people saying, hey man, thanks so much for the video, da 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 da. And what it does is it empowers me even more to feel like this is amazing. Like not only is this just allowing me to be creative in my process and speak, but it also hits home with other people and it shares it. And then I get empowered by all the insights, all the realizations, all the understandings, the ability to learn, etc., etc. And so that's again how this fixed quadrant works. And when it's working in a balanced, harmonic way, we're dealing with emotional individuation, okay? Now, if we take this one step further, and we now begin to look at the nature of parenting, okay? Parenting. Taurus, right? Survival, right? In order for the existence of something to be present, it needs to have a survival gene. Right? So this gene is Taurus archetype, survival. On its most fundamental level, it's survival. And you can easily objectify this process by looking at everything outside of yourself. I've got a window over there, so that's why I keep on pointing, because I'll always do that. You even go back to the older videos when I was living in the different home, I would also have like a little small window where nature would be there and I'd point to it. So survival, right? And you can, like I said, you can start a new project and you're like all excited and then you're like, okay, what resources do I need to start this process? Okay. So here we have individuation. Here we have survival mutation. then what happens is that as a species that is in human form, we then naturally survive by merging with another person to create more power in survivability. So that's why procreation works, because we're naturally merging with another person, becoming intimate with them, and through the mechanics of masculine and feminine merging, we then co-create a third entity, which then becomes you and me relative to our parents, and it becomes our children, which is relative to our partner, etc. Right? So now what we have here is Taurus. Okay, everybody needs to be able to survive in that sense, and you feel this in a relationship to yourself. You meet another person, Scorpio, you merge Scorpio opposed Taurus, and then what you manifest is a third entity, which is Leo, right? The child. The merging of love in that heated moment, that romantic pursuit. You go read all the astrology books and you'll see Leo will talk about affairs and will talk about this and da 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 da. Whereas really, from a more scientific, biological observation correlation perspective, the Leo archetype is the validation of two hearts merging together, right, in that moment, and then releasing that experience. So now what we have here is that co-creative behavior. Now, what happens is that if we go now and we analyze the nature of Aquarius, which again is what this video is about, what we are now getting in touch with in a very deep way with ourselves is the conditioning and structure and the nature of Aquarius. Okay, so up until this point in time, in very small pockets within the globe, there is emotional individuation taking place, but it's very limited. Okay. And the reason why this would be the case is because, of course, in order for consciousness to evolve itself out of its sort of like new form, it needs to have structures that say this is the generic way of being. And this generic way of being is giving a sense of form in order for consciousness to awaken itself through. And so then what we have is a large majority of the population in what is called, from evolutionary astrology's perspective, consensus state reality. Saturn land as an example. And what the Saturn land does is it, like I said, is it creates the natural nurturing of security and for people to evolve through feeling that there is just, that they are safe. And so we have religion as an example that manifests out of this structural reality. Now, in the collective mutation video, I spoke about the Saturn, I spoke about Jupiter, and I spoke about Pluto's south nodes, okay, being all collectively for us on the planet in Capricorn. So there's a very, very, very deeply emphasized, okay, conditioning and sort of allowance for everybody to just be the same, okay, to follow the rules, right? So what we have here on the planet in terms of consciousness manifesting itself in physical form and the material plane is what we have is just generic, same thing over and over. This is, everything looks the same in that way, right? There's a couple of windows that are different in certain things, but look at how we live in the Western world to a certain degree. We're very, very closed up in apartment buildings. I mean, the place that I live over here is very much like, you know, I'm lucky in the sense that where I live is very close, specifically chosen by me in a small community experience. Yet it doesn't mean that what's around me isn't completely and utterly still brought together by people living on boxes. You know, if I look outside, there's a whole sort of building over there with, I would say, close to 100 like flat boxes where people are living in, and maybe you even live in that place as well. Now, this is not a criticism. I'm saying that we live in this place because there is a sense of like unity, there's a sense of closeness, there's a sense of safety, maybe whatever types of psychological dynamics that we as human beings have kind of merged with have brought us to this, everybody lives close like that. And yet, if you really understood energy in its depth, you would notice that that thing over there starts to influence everybody's energy frequencies, and the capacity for your individuation process is very limited, okay, to just your little box. And you know, like minimalism is great. So you've got to understand here, I'm not talking about this from the place of like, this is how we are and there's something wrong with you. I'm saying that we as a collective race have developed our societal structure in a way where we have nucleus, and then obviously as we expand out into into the more countryside type of experiences, that's when everything begins individuated process, right? But the nucleus manifests because where we have evolved from has needed that process. And when we're evolving to, is going to ask us to begin to break away from that nucleus. Because the structural form in which we as human beings will need to exist and what is essential for our survival will not really be supporting this industrial process of living in one little place over here, but the capacity to be very fluid in our existence, okay? And it's the internet that really gives us that. Like for everybody that's got Wi-Fi, for instance, or is watching this on your phone, you'd begin to see what I mean. That you can watch this YouTube channel or do your work on your laptop sitting in a cafe and not needing to be very bound by a workforce that is in one location and everybody's got to live around that location so they can get to work. Like that is now dropping away from us right now. And that's what's really, really captured in the Uranus conjunct Neptune conjunction, like I said, that is in the Scorpio generations gene. Okay, that fracturing and breaking down, and that's where Pluto is today. Pluto is moving over that stuff there. Okay, so coming back to the Aquarius archetype and the natural zodiac and the fixedness, what we are understanding about Aquarius and how it's transmuting is that we're dealing with emotional individuation, where we begin to understand that as we come into the world, we're instantly needing externalized authority to be able to survive. Now, what happens is that because we are in some way, shape or form not in contact with the depth of our more cosmic cycles and understanding of the natural mutation that takes place as a biological being. So we see ourselves as like Simon and John and Henry, etc. But we don't see ourselves as an organic bioform that is mutating itself through our genetic DNA, and that our experiences on Earth are shaping the nature of our mutation. And we're here to watch this process and interact with others, collectively sharing an awakened state of consciousness. You understand the difference between perceiving yourself as just your identity given to you from school and all that type of stuff to the actual presence of what you are. Okay? So now all of a sudden Aquarius begins to say, what is my unique needs? What are my individuated states of consciousness? And how much of my conditioning is projected onto me based on externalized authority figures that are within inside of myself that I've never been able to make to separate the two between when is it time for me to begin understanding that the Saturn cycle, 0 to 29, is about really allowing my conditioning to be, or my soul to be understood around my karma. And then from that individuated, from 30 onwards, begin to understand and purify that karma dynamic so that when you get to 51, you actually awaken the true spiritual story here. So anybody living up until the age of 51 and saying that you're lost in life, like you're always going to feel lost because you don't actually have Chiron return itself until 51, and Chiron has not hit the deep sensitive points of that chart yet. So you're basically just going to consistently keep on putting yourself down and not so like actualizing yourself in that sense. And really it's about not understanding your individuated process, or us understanding our individuated process, right? So flipping the switch back again to Aquarius and saying, we have Aquarius, we have our individuated states of awarenesses, we have the cycles in our astrology chart, the Pluto conjunct this, the Saturn move that, and etc., that is mutating us. And that uniqueness is that if we begin to think in a way, so let me back it up here a little bit and say this, we come into the world, we need this security, right? We don't know anything about it. We need the external authority, also known as parents, to be able to help us understand food, shelter, and to be able to develop what life is about in terms of what is dangerous, what is not, etc. Okay? Now, what happens is that we begin to externalize that authority, and parents within ourselves then, because of this happening to us, feel that it is our right to then condition the individuated state of our child or of us. Our individuated state has been suppressed. Okay, we have not developed it yet. We have not allowed for that individuatedness to manifest because most of us have been unfortunately domesticated through our lives, right? If you sit at the table, how dare you sit at the table with your 2-year-old that sits on the table and plays with the Cheerios because you have to clean it up as an example. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, But for me, I had to go through the process where I was like, hold on, I'm actually forcing my child to do something other than what she loves to do, which is just be creative on this. And she doesn't know anything, but we've become so domesticated that you can't put it on the table. And it's like, what? Just as an example, okay? So the point is that becoming awake to the realization that so much of our individuality and creative exploration has been pushed down and suppressed through our norms, our rules, our judgments on social expectations and blah, 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 blah. This is all changing, and we are holding the torch right now for that expression to be broken out through the heart and for us to understand the truth of I am. Not the new age concept of I am and sparkles, etc., like this, but to actually confront this conditioning in yourself and realize and be aware of it within yourself, and then start responding in a way that starts to begin to change, or not change it, but respond in a different way. That's the key here. Okay, responding to it in a way where you're honoring individuation, so that we begin to actually allow and develop the younger children of the day, which have got Aquarius, Uranus in Aquarius, which have got Neptune in Aquarius, Neptune in Pisces, and Aquarius in Pisces as well. And even the younger kids like my two with Uranus in Aries. I mean, Jesus, these people are like, I don't care what you think, I'm going in this direction. And if you don't like it, we'll deal with my tantrum, right? They're incredibly individuated through their emotional reality, and they're showing us the future. It's up to us to respond to that mutation as the realization that they are individuating us and confronting every single part of ourselves that is the old identity paradigm that exists, right? So this emotional individuation is realizing everybody's uniqueness, realizing everybody's process is different, realizing and honoring that, so that we drop all the judgments and criticisms around, okay, that guy believes in numerology and that guy believes in 12-sign astrology and this person believes in Kabbalah. All of them lead to the same path. Everybody's individuation process is different. Who cares? Have fun. But don't come over and tell me that this thing's over here, because then you're not honoring your individuation in yourself. Just let it be. That person's like vegan food, that likes meat food. This likes this over here, that likes... Let's see the perspectives that are individuated in each other. And allow ourselves, and especially somebody had watched the 12th house Uranus video, Uranus in the 12th house. And one thing that I wanted to say with Uranus in the 12th house souls is that you struggle deeply with past lifetimes around your trauma, where your individuated process has been massively suppressed. And you actually come in with this dynamic blueprint of trying to individuate yourself. So you'll do like random stuff, right? You'll just do random stuff. You don't understand why, but it's an acting out around the like suppression of your individuation, right? That is manifesting. And it's incredibly important to know that that blueprint that you carry is the realization of showing everybody individuation. So Aquarius, as an archetypal structure, is not about having blue hair and dyeing your, and like, you know, like wearing black clothes and being a punk rocker, for instance, and just being like, yeah, man, I'm individuated. It's not about that. Each and every single one of us that were to be put in a little hall, okay, and then one person that was wearing pink hair, that's Aquarius? No, it's not. That's not Aquarius. That is that person's process of his individuation. And everybody else is also individuated themselves. They just don't actually honor it. Let's say, for instance, that person's wearing pink hair and everybody else has got like, you know, just the same color hair, right? It's not that nobody's individuated themselves. It's just it's not being honored. It's not being shone through. Why? Because the polarity point of Aquarius is Leo. And so that's self-validation. And that's the thing that's been destroyed. So coming back to the mutation cycle, you have your child. And what you do is you project onto them, 8th house, 2nd house, 5th house, onto them, your individuality, your essential needs, your things about what you think is the best for them, etc., versus allowing their individuation process to be it for themselves. Now, obviously, this information needs to be taken in a very deep, thoughtful way, i.e., if your child decides to be reckless and just run around in the road, for instance, and you go, Simon told me to say that, disclaimer again, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that each of them will respond to their environment in a different way. And if your child, for instance, says, you know, I'm comfortable in the black clothes that I've got right now, and society says that that's wrong, then there's that confrontation around, okay, Well, we're all going out to this place over here. Everybody's dressing in this type of way because this is the type of event we're going to. Um, would you like to still go dressed in these colors, which are different? And it's like honoring the individuation process and allowing them to still make the decisions. But talking to them in a way where it's not like you will do this or you have to go do that. It's along the lines of like, this is what's like, give options. That's what I'm saying. So that we can cultivate in the younger generation the emotional wave, but also allowing ourselves to get in touch with our own individuation process, that we are maybe projecting what we think is important for them and where we have got the conditioning within ourselves. Does that make sense? Example that I wanted to share with everyone was the new way in which we can actually be very supportive to not only everybody around you, but in particular to the development of the children of today that carry the mutation within themselves, okay? Or should I say the supporting them develop what is already within themselves so that they awaken this true potential and actually bring it through in that sense. And that was just that most of the Uranus and Aries kids, okay, and if you have a lot of obviously separation anxiety within yourself, right, and particularly the Uranus and Aries kids, separation anxiety is something, again, where it's a natural square between Aquarius, to Aries and Cancer in the zodiac, okay? There's a natural square. And separation anxiety also comes from now this is advanced astrology, but the quincunx that is taking place between Aries and Scorpio, okay? So everybody understands the natural zodiac. You've got Scorpio here, Aries on the horizon, and Cancer at the cardinal energy right at the bottom. So Scorpio is deep osmosis and empowerment. It is empowerment to deep osmosis with emotional security. I feel known in this experience. I know how to navigate. I've got a centeredness about myself. Aries comes along and says, new direction. Okay, just act. Can you imagine what a new direction and just acting does for somebody that is deeply invested within their own emotional security and is asked to change? Obviously, we're going to have emotional anxiety. Why? Because we're being asked to do something that is not emotionally secure relative to what we can attach ourselves to, right? So there is a process of understanding how to cultivate that. So cultivating uniqueness, cultivating individuation process within people that have got that is allowing them to have this anxiety, but also to be able to then honor the process of what it means to develop the security in them. So allowing them to have a good, strong foundation, but then also saying, okay, now you've got to go and try it. So that when you try it, the ability to see and respond to the environment as it's not as bad as the emotions might say, that's where it comes in. So it's like direct experience of being brave enough. So this is where courage comes in as an Aries archetype, as an example, brave and bold. Okay, let's do this. Let's try it out. I know it feels all this way, but just go ahead and try it. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be a cultivation of movement into something and develops that deep inner feeling of knowing that whenever you are challenged with experiences going forward, okay, with your life, that you're able to respond with a sense of, even though I feel anxiety or this newness, and it's really just my body responding to the uncertainty, that I can do it and that it will be okay. And especially for the Uranus and Aries kids that have got a lot of that separation anxiety, that will go out but need to come back again. South Node in the 4th house of the astrological chart, planets connecting to the moon as an example. These are examples of what I mean. So think about that process. Think about the natural way that operates, okay? All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate it. I know that you definitely got something out of this experience. It was been 30 odd minutes of just being tuned into the depth and vibration. And I really, really hope that this resonates in a powerful way. Somebody suggested to me the other day, and I really, really wanted to actually do this, and I'm super happy that it came out. I'm going to be adding to all the videos that I create a basic, like a donate link. Okay. And the reason why I want to do this is because, as I said, it was suggested to me that maybe some of you would really appreciate the videos. You want to, like share your gratitude towards it, but maybe don't have the capacity to just book a full reading. Okay. And support the work that I do. So in the description below, or an icon somewhere, I don't know where it's going to go yet, but it will be there. It's either at the bottom of the screen over here or in the description, is a donate button. And this is not something that you have to feel guilty for. This is just there. If you feel that you want to go and use that for some random reason to support the construction of these videos, then I deeply, deeply, deeply honor you. And for me, the reason why I would be putting that there is just to say, hey guys, like this is becoming a bigger thing for me. The subscriber count has gone up bigger for me. I've begun to deeply invest in creating videos for you where the content is a lot more illustrative. Not like I haven't done it before, but I really want to take this to the next level. And I feel that I want to invest more time into the process as well for everybody and actually make this a place where some of my actual true dreams start to come out. And I want to be able to be there for everybody in a way that is deeply caring. And I love that. I mean, now I'm really, really animated in this process of having this process. So I'm going to be putting that out there. Feel free to use it. It's your choice, and don't feel like you're not. Every single person that's watching this video, I deeply appreciate in the most like incredible sense. You have no idea. Okay. So just the fact that you're even writing in a comment below and saying, hey man, thanks for the video, or writing about your own experience and having an engagement with somebody else that's awakening you in that way, then it's still working and I'm still being deeply appreciated. So that I just wanted to mention that to everybody over there. Okay. Just a quick thing around what's happening for me. So I am now beginning the work on the 12 archetypes and reshaping the way and looking at how they operate through a distorted and non-distorted lens. Again, a lot of my work right now is going to be heavily invested in supporting mutation and understanding what this is about so that it gets collectively awoken in everybody. I have been doing this already. I think I've just become fully awakened to the process now. Well, I think I am at least. So I'm moving in that direction, and a lot of the material that's going to come out of me is going to be very, very deep stuff, allowing for your individuation process to come out and honoring what I actually spoke about today around us recognizing that if we have children, for instance, and we want them to become lawyers and attorneys, and they want to become, like a truck driver, for instance, okay, like that's just okay. There's nothing wrong with that process, and we shouldn't allow our social programming to influence that in some way, shape, or form. Does that make sense? And to allow individuation in itself. We're all unique in that way. And it's not about we're all unique just like everybody else in that way. It's not. It's not the Aquarian stuff of the tribe where I belong here. It's like fully actually living in alignment with who you are. Like I am. And I have uniquenesses and oddnesses, and this is what makes me completely different to everybody else. There is nobody else on the planet like you. There is nobody else on the planet like me. And the moment we begin to understand that process, you'll start to freak out because you'll see how much of your conditioning and thoughts are around what other people say is the truth as well. So it's like you're just going to kind of notice how your mind regurgitates information that in some way, shape, or form really hasn't come from your own uniqueness in that sense. So it's getting in touch with that and realizing how much of that has not been developed within ourselves for the old, whoever you are at this point in time, but also honoring that in a deep way, okay? Awesome, guys. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you relatively shortly with Jupiter in Libra video, okay? And until then, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.